happened to me this week. And I bring this up because no matter how long you've been in the business, things can still come up and bite you in the butt. So I list a house in Westland for $265,000. Sell it for $265,000. Now I have to go out and show them homes. So we go and look at numerous homes, we write 2 different offers, and proceed to get beat out. One had 9 offers on it, one had 7. One we went 10 grand over, I think it was the one with 7, we went 10 grand over and still got beat out. So what ends up happening is my sellers/buyers get very frustrated. So what do they want to do? Now we're still kind of going back and forth on the inspection on their house.
Sell their house.
They want to kill the deal on their house. So, thinking that, and they got the inspection clause from Century 21 was pretty ambiguous. And I mean, I looked at it, I had our attorneys look at it, and he flat out told me, he goes, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's, so they hire an attorney, the buyer of the first house, because we want out of the deal, and this attorney's threatening lawsuit. So I spent the last 3 days going back and forth with attorneys trying to solve this problem. Finally, I think my people have caved in, and they're just gonna sell the house, and now I have to, find them something. But the moral of my story here is, you can do everything right, and things can still bite you in the butt if you're not careful with things. And even if when you are careful, because I just never thought this would happen. I mean, and I've been doing, yeah, take that whole package. That's one whole package, yeah. So, it's just been, it's crazy out there. I mean, if people are working right now in real estate, and you should be making money, because I have not seen the market this hot since before things crashed. Even in 2012 when things started to come back. I just think, and maybe it's just right now, this small segment and the price range, but I've been talking to a lot of agents outside that I know, outside of the office too, and they're all saying the same thing. The market's unbelievably hot, but then now what's happening again is there's appraisal issues. So when you're writing offers, if you're not sure how to put it together, I'd say talk to me, and hopefully I won't screw you guys up like I screwed myself up. But no, I mean, it's good to get a second opinion when you're writing these things right now, to see what's the best way you can structure it to make it work. Because it's crazy out there. I mean, are you guys seeing that yet, or?
Yeah.
You're writing offers and having issues trying to.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, one question is, I have a client that I'm working with, and there's a house for $279, and we submitted an offer. They didn't want to work with VA loan because of the state appraisal that happens.
Not state appraisal, but somebody that knows what they're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay, and so what my clients did was put a clause in there, appraisal deficiency clause, basically stating regardless of what the appraisal is, they'll pay. Do you think that was, and they're aware that they may come out of pocket, but do you think?
Well, that's what's one of the things that are going on. You're guaranteeing that. I always put a limit and a top on it, okay? The top end would be, I mean, if you put in there, I'll pay whatever it appraises for, and you write, what'd you write for, 279?
275.
Okay.
Up to 275.
Okay, and it was listed at 279?
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time when you're doing that, you're even going above, asking price. So at that point, your people are willing to pay 275. What if, by chance, it goes to 250?
Right, I was just.
Now, is that a good thing for your client?
No.
It would be a great thing for your client.
If the clause wasn't there.
No. If you're saying they're going to pay, all right, they're going to pay up to 275. Doesn't matter, right? That is not a good thing for your client. Now, conversely, sometimes when they get written, you're gonna put the seller in it. So if you're on the listing side, you gotta be careful. You could sit there and say, I'll pay $5,000 over the appraised value. Okay?
Yeah,
Now it appraises at $250. The buyer's happy, because I'm only gonna pay $255 now. The seller, if that's written exactly the way I just said it, theoretically the seller has to sell it for that price. So on the listing side, you gotta make sure that ideally you're saying, if you brought me an offer like that, Al, and said, okay, I'll pay $5,000 over appraised value, I would say with the minimum sales price of $265, and if it sells for less than or if it appraises for less than $265, seller reserves the right not to sell the property.
You know, I happen just like that.
See, look at that, I read your mind, Bill. Did the same way. I got something, got some new material here. So I have one now with they guaranteed that they'll go $5,000 over, $5,000 over appraised value. And, you know, I think we're pretty safe on that. It's my seller. So you gotta be, when you write addendums or clauses like that, you gotta think it through. And it's great that, let's say, if you write it the way that screws the seller, I hate to say it for lack of a better term, you think you've written it perfectly for your client, the seller side doesn't catch it, and all of a sudden you've got an issue. Sometimes it gets a little crazy. The seller's just not gonna cave, right?
right.
But shame on their agent for not structuring that way. You know, we had, and this has only been something that's happened in the last few years, you know, making sure that they're worded properly.
Right.
Okay? So there's nothing wrong with putting a clause in there, because in a lot of times in multiple offers, that's one of the things that may help you get the deal. And you know, you guys, when we go into purchase agreements again, and I was talking to Jay Harrison, who's a buyer's agent on Z's team, and we just were talking about something that led into how are you writing offers and making sure you get them. And everything he was saying is what I'm trying to teach you guys when it comes to writing the offers. Everybody thinks price is the most important thing. Occupancy is huge. Maybe not charging for occupancy. Okay, there's lots of different ways you can structure things to where it's not just about price. Because if you jack the price up so high, what might end up happening is you end up with appraisal issues. But if there's other ways to make it work, that's good. Hey, Lon, you want to run some copies? We're only finishing up the last page of I think the profile's
I
where
can
we're
run
at.
I have it on what I've
Okay, just run a couple more things. So, we're gonna go agency next week, and then after agency, I'm gonna go into the PAs again. And I'll tell you, the PA part of this is gonna be very important for you, because you'll be able to see how you can structure things to make it work, because it's very important at this point. You have a green tie? Are you closing today?
Yes, sir.
Money today?
Yes, sir, it's good.
When lawnmower is green, it's closing day.
That's true.
Money day. We're literally, I know some of you guys are back here, we haven't been here in a long time. We're finishing up the list, which is good that you're back, the listing thing. So all those pages we gave you, we're really down to 1 or 2 pages on it. So, and then keep them. We are going to put some books together that you won't, I don't know if this will work. The idea will bring your book back and forth, so we don't have to keep running the same papers over and over. Book back and forth when you come in next time.
Okay.
Well, when we give them to you. That way, and it'll be in order of buy side, sale side, and agency. And then we're probably going to put a few more forms in there. We're going to go through and look at on Dotloop. Lynn was smart and pulled everything out. I'm going to look at and see if there's stuff that we may use or may not use. There's some stuff in there that I don't think anyone's ever going to use in Dotloop. So, but the idea is to get you guys somewhat structured. And I appreciate you guys being here because it shows that you guys are taking the interest to learn. All right, Dave, where did we leave off last week?
Solar profile sheets.
the 4 sheets of the seller profile is really the last thing we got. Which one were we on?
I think we're on page 2. The bottom of page 2.
Yeah.
That where we're at? Where'd we end up? Oh, just like that, cooling? We'll pick up at cooling. Since I get to hear all the stories that you guys come up with, had a great story from another agent, Craig Rotown. Craig told you the story. He sold the house, they closed on the house. Sellers, no, actually they hadn't even closed on the house. They're doing the walkthrough, and guess what was missing?
Picture.
Oh, better. The AC unit. Oh, bad. Now, here was the problem, or here is the problem. It said AC on the multi-list, okay? Somewhere before, they're pretty sure that somewhere before he ever even showed it, it was stolen or disappeared. Stolen may not be disappeared. So, it's another reason you gotta make sure you're paying attention when you're walking around, because now you guys would pay attention if, walking around to see if the house had air conditioning, right? Because you're gonna need air conditioning. Middle of winter, you may not even think to look around because the air conditioning's not gonna be on in the house. But when you're walking around before you write, you probably should make sure that something like that is in there. And then when you do the walkthrough, make sure. And the problem was, this is a short sale. I mean, so, I don't even know how this ended up going, if it ended up closing or not. But you gotta, if it's a short sale, they may say, screw it, I don't have the money. The house got, someone broke into it. So, little things like that. What's an attic fan?
It's a hot air.
Hey, we need that in here. Hot air. Yeah, it's usually at the top of the stairs. If people are unfamiliar with them, a lot of people say, oh my God, that's so loud and noisy and whatever when you turn it on. But if you've used one, they're great. They'll keep your AC unit, your AC bill down dramatically. Especially if you don't have the AC unit in the house. Appliances. Another thing you've got to watch when you're listing or when you're writing an offer, even. You think people have been known to switch appliances? So my thought is, I've always joked that until you bought an appliance for somebody, you're not truly a realtor. Because Juanita's chuckling over there because she's seen stuff like that happen, right? So making sure all your appliances are there. Your heating system's pretty simple. What do we most commonly see?
Forced.
Gas forced air in most cases. A lot of people ask, what's a wall furnace? What's a wall furnace? That's a question. That's one way of looking at it. Usually, where you'll see them is like add-ons in family rooms where there's no ductwork.
Okay.
So it's kind of supplemental heat.
Or if they encapsulate a garage, that's pretty common.
Yeah. So those are probably the two biggest places, or the most common place you're going to see them. There's just it's a room that normally doesn't have heat to it, or maybe in a bungalow upstairs where there's no ductwork. They might put something like that in there. Most of what you're going to see for fuel type.
Hey,
Yes.
real quick, so when you have baseboard or radiators,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so those are the gas.
Right.
Portion. So you have baseboard, I understand. The radiators would be radiant,
Actually,
or and
Radiant.
then I've got
What's
hot
radiant?
water.
Heating under the floor.
Usually radiant is the floor, where like
Oh, in the floor?
yeah.
Okay, and then so hot water, does that go along with baseboard, or do you have?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you could put that in hot water.
Hot water, baseboard,
yes.
and then steam would be the radiator.
Correct, correct. What's gravity? Anyone know gravity for you old timers? I don't.
Gravity feed from furnace with not forced air.
The big octopuses that used to be in the systems I haven't seen too many lately, but every once in a while, if you sell in Detroit or Ferndale or Royal Oak or whatever, there probably is from bigger than from Al to myself and that wall to here, and it just sits in the middle of the basement.
Octopus.
Yeah, it's an octopus. Gravity heat, there's no blower on a gravity thing, because what happens? Heat does what?
Right.
Heat rises. Fire, heat. And goes throughout the house. The negative is there's no return. If you can't connect air conditioning to that, so at some point, if you wanted air, you'd have to bring in a totally separate situation here. They're the most, what's the word, inefficient out there, but they're indestructible. I mean, these things will last 70, 80 years. If they're still out, if you find one today, it's been in there longer than 70 or 80 years, I guess. And the flip side, if you go to get rid of them, the pipes are lined with asbestos.
Fortunately, get them
Yeah. So you theoretically need to bring in somebody who's good at, removing asbestos.
Has to be certified abater.
Yes. Or just cut them up in the middle of the night and make sure nobody sees you taking them out. Oh, that was on. She's got me videoed now. So, most of your fuel, like I say, is gas. You may see some electric. You go out, you might see LP. Oil supposedly is making a comeback, which I just think that is so bizarre. But I see commercials on TV now for oil heat. Hot water heater, most of the time it's just going to be gas. Some old houses have electric. I doubt those are still even working. We got the appliances, fireplace location. Here's where it can get a little confusing. A lot of homes have two fireplaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
One may be gas and one may be electric. Or not electric, natural. If you read these, the two no maximum for location, you could check basement and family room, and then you could check gas and wood. But guess what that doesn't do? Tell you which ones were, right? So where do you need to put that on your listing?
Description.
In your description. And say, natural fireplace and basement, gas fireplace, family room, whatever. Are there exclusions? What's that mean? This is actually a good thing.
Are you excluding like a TV or something like that?
Well, it would be, let's say there's the chandelier in the dining room, that's up there. You'd be checking yes, but again, it doesn't tell you what the exclusion is. This is just a reminder, there is an exclusion. Where do you need to put the exclusion?
Description.
In the description. And I can tell you that's the one I've screwed up on more than one occasion over the last 23 years. Because normally I'll put it in, because that was never here a few years ago, that little box. I'd take it and put it on the exclusive right to sell. Unfortunately, it doesn't do me any good because nobody else sees the exclusive right to sell, right? So it needs to go from the exclusive right to sell to here, so you can avoid that.
Do you put your exclusions in the public remarks or just the realtor?
I would put them in both, but when I write my comments, they're one and the same. I don't do two different comments.
I think it's probably a good idea if you're listing the house, if there are any exclusions like the chandelier, tell them to change it before we
Yep.
show it.
She's absolutely right. You're much better off if it's a chandelier or something that can be changed. Take it down and put the $10 Home Depot light fixture up. So people look at something and they automatically want it, even if they don't want it, if they can't have it. They want it. Right? So, again, just go through these: air cleaner, cable, central vacuum, the greatest thing known to man. You can get that. You know what central vacuum is? It plugs into the wall, there's a hole, the suction just takes it and dumps it in the canister either in the basement or the garage. You just connect your hose and go from, you probably can do it one connection and do 2 or 3 rooms, so it's pretty cool. Disabled facilities. If you have a house that does have disabled facilities, you want to put it down because, again, these are search items. If you're looking on your MLS to pull up a listing, these are all things you can pull up. So if somebody's looking for handicap access and you don't put it in there, and somebody's specifically looking for it, it's, they're gonna miss that. Elevator lift, furnished, internet, intercom, jetted tub, pets allowed. That's kind of a weird one. I mean, this is not even a lease form, but I guess for condos, pets allowed would make sense. Security alarm. A big issue is water softeners. People don't know if they own their water softener or they're renting their water softener. We had a streak probably 18 months ago where we had 2 or 3 problems where people moved in thinking there was a water softener because they saw it when they saw the house. Unfortunately, it was rented. And once the people moved out, it was over. People came in. I had another one where it was worse. They didn't know it, and there was a rental charge on it. So these people didn't know that they'd be paying $35 a month for the next whatever it was. So make sure you're asking the right questions. When you're walking around and you see a water softener, ask them, is it rented or owned? And they'll say, I don't know. Well, are you paying every month? And if you're paying every month, that's probably a pretty good clue. That's a rented water softener. All right, any questions on that?
What's the difference between a rented and owned security
So
alarm?
basically, where it gets, security systems now I think are a little different because somebody was telling me, let's say you sign on with ADT and you sign up for their package for 2 or 3 years. If you leave, unless you transfer to your new house, you're still paying. And I think it's not going to go to the house, it's going to
Individual.
Yes, the individual. I've noticed that this year. So Al has a house with a security system, and I'm not saying they're all this way, but they're signing not to the house. It's kind of like utilities. You're signing to the person. So Al decides to move. They're not sticking necessarily the new person. They're sticking him. Now, unless Al decides, okay, I'm going to move to my new house, and I'm going to put ADT back on, and that's probably the only way you're going to get out of paying that security system. So. Foundation, block, brick, poured. Most of the 2 you're going to see are what 2? Block and poured. How do you know the difference? Dave's not going to answer this.
One has lots of lines.
Juanita, that's the best answer. She's right. If you got lines going this way and this way, that's a block basement. If it's solid, it's a poured basement. Now, I have seen some poured basements where they get fancy and the forms are actually look like bricks. So,
Which one is better?
depends who you ask. The old timers will tell you block is better.
Well, it depends on who poured it.
Yeah. The new poured is obviously is quicker, and it's go ask a bunch of contractors. I don't sit here and say I know that answer, but old timers will tell you block is better.
Block never leaks through the re-roundels.
Well, that's true. So, but if a basement's done right, it shouldn't leak at all. Foundation, basement crawl. What's Michigan basement? And don't say a basement in Michigan. That one I won't take. That would be correct, but that's not the answer we're looking for today. I think they have Ohio basements or Indiana basements or whatever. Michigan basement is older houses, and I mean old, where a lot of times they were dirt floors. They were just for the mechanicals were down there. I won't say fruit sellers necessarily, but they probably used them for that. And they're probably less than 6 feet tall, or maybe a little bit taller than that. A lot of them then got cemented over, and you could use the space. My house in Plymouth is that way. I'm sure that was a dirt floor at one time, back the turn of the century, from a century ago. So,
But it's bigger than a crawl.
yes, it's definitely, you can stand up. Lon, how tall are you?
You won't.
Some of them you can, some of them you can't. Yeah.
Watch your head going down.
Yeah, depending on how tall you are. But it's definitely deeper than a crawl.
Okay.
The mechanicals, let's put this, a Michigan basement, doubtful you're going to finish a Michigan basement. The only thing you're going to use, What's that?
They're stones,
Yeah.
they're not poured. they're-
Right, that's prior
they're
to,
stones.
yes, there's literally boulders that they built. If you'd like, I'll take a picture and bring it in next week. I'll go down to my basement and show you. I mean, I use mine for storage and everything else, but you're probably never gonna finish a machine basement unless you have short people. Is that the proper term? Politically correct there? Estimated basement square footage. That's the total square footage. Okay, if you've got a, let's say 1,000-foot ranch, and the basement goes under this whole thing, you pretty much have 1,000 square foot or you have 1,000-foot basement. The next part is what's finished. And again, there's certain things that are too subjective for me, in my liking. Lon, what's your definition of a finished basement?
Walls, flooring, ceiling.
What about the ceiling?
And it's finished in some form, whether it's a drop ceiling, drywall, or it could even be sprayed. As
Okay.
long as it's presentable, not just
Okay.
regular joists
And your floor?
Some type of covering, linoleum, tile, even if it's linoleum. you
Okay,
know.
and what about your walls?
Presentable, they don't have to be drywall.
And
but
see-
even they're painted, I mean, it's like.
But, and again, and that's your description, I could ask Al, and Al's saying my basement better be, if it's finished, I want studs up, I want drywall, I want heat, I want insulation. Okay, so it's a very subjective thing, okay? And there's no, I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer on that. When people say, again, they want a finished basement, so you put in there finished basement, you could get anything, right? And your clients are gonna say, hell, that's not a finished basement to me. So what you need to do on the buy side is educate your people. I tell people, don't worry if it says finished basement or not. Because a lot of times, I know my vision of a finished basement, not even the materials, just the layout, right? If I've got 6 or 7 rooms in a basement that's all chopped up, I'm taking my Sawzall and cutting it out, right? So the way somebody finishes it may be a detriment to what you're looking for. So if you educate your clients up front on the buy side, that when we're looking at basements, don't worry about what it says here. Now, the beauty of things on the MLS now, if somebody's got a nice basement, what are they going to do? They're going to take pictures of it. Back in the day, Juanita, when did you get licensed? Have you? I can't remember.
75.
Oh, hell, she goes long farther than me. Well, she goes before there were the multi-list, which I do too. But then it started out where you could put 1 picture on the multi-list, basically an exterior. Then they went to 6 pictures, and we thought we were really lucky. Okay, now I think it's up, is it 90?
99.
99 pictures you can put up now. Which I really don't advise doing, by the way. You lose people, you really lose people when they're sitting there looking at that. But, and it's funny, this is where I've educated, my thought process has changed a lot. Because when I was just dwelling on 6, and everyone started sitting here saying, okay, there's not enough pictures, and I'm talking to my clients on this, I'm thinking, well, I don't understand it. Well then, as I talk to more and more of my clients, I realized most people now, if you don't have 15 to 20 photos, they're just hitting next and going to the next listing. They're not wasting their time because, and I was talking to one of my clients today, the one I was telling the story about, I gotta get him out looking again, he goes, well, there's no pictures of the kitchen.
Hide something.
Guess, right?
Right.
I mean, no picture of the kitchen means
Something's
something's wrong.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the most important rooms in the house. So, the beauty is, it's not as important if, like, for a finished basement, if somebody says, I want a finished basement, well, you know what? Let's just see what the pictures show, and then we'll figure out if it is. But the square footage in the second part of the finished basement is very simple. It's the finished basement, not the whole basement. You know, if half of it's finished on that 1,000 square foot ranch, it's, 500 square feet. All right?
Before you go on,
Yeah.
one of the things I also point out to my clients, when they're looking at the pictures, when you see flooring that looks like wood or you see countertops that look like stone, I instruct my clients to read the remarks because no one is gonna miss the opportunity to say granite counters, wood floors. But if it just says new flooring, new counters, and it looks like it's stone, and they get in the house and they're like, that's what made me start doing. They'll get in the house and they're like, oh, I thought, you know, what?
Yeah.
Well, I tell them, you read that, if it doesn't say it in there and it looks that way, bet that it's probably not.
Right.
Because they're not gonna miss that opportunity.
No, you're right.
So it
You're
helps
right.
people not go in thinking that it's gonna be a wood floor and a granite top when it's a painted formica and a.
Although, where's the baseline for realtors? And I say that kind of in jest, but kind of serious. I mean, agents are lazy. I mean, they'll jam through their comments really quick and not think about what they're doing. So if I was a homeowner and somebody didn't do a good job of describing my house, I probably would not be happy with them. But agents do that all the time, okay? But you're right. I always tell them, first thing, just get on Google Earth and see if it's where you want to be. You know, your house could look great, Lon, but you're in the middle of Beirut, bombed out, and it's you know, you can see that from Google Earth. So start with that and have them say, listen, if you're interested, look online and look at what the neighborhood is, or backs to a main road. Somebody says, I don't want to back to a main road. Well, you know what? You drive out there and guess what? Backs to a main road. Could have saved everybody some, if they would have looked at it that way. Okay. Basement. Common. What's a common basement? It's not like a Michigan basement. It's built in Michigan. So.
Shared basement.
Yeah, it's a shared basement. To where you go down and you might have an assigned area caged in or whatever for storage. Daylight basement. What's daylight?
Windows.
Larger, yeah.
Windows.
Tall
So
ceiling.
it's not quite a walkout, but you've got windows because you're somewhat below grade at some point in the basement.
They usually have a well.
Now, a lot of them do because if you're finishing them, you've got to have an egress. So, finished. Interior access only. That's pretty much anybody's basement. Most.
It's not a walkout.
Correct. Or there's some basements like, let's see if it's in there. What was? Again, here's a good one. Partially finished can go one of two ways, right? I finished part of the basement, right? Partially finished. Or I finished the whole basement partially, right? So nobody thinks about that one, but it could go either way. Private, unfinished, walkout access, walk-up access. I gotta tell you, I'm not sure what they're talking about walk-up.
Well, the home that I'm gonna be listing, when you, in the basement, it's actual stairs. There's 12 or 14 stairs that go down, and then there's like a normal storm door and door that gets you into the basement. Would that qualify as that, or is that just a walkout?
I believe so, because the stairs would hence the term walk up.
Right, that's kind of,
That means that you come out the basement going up to grade, but a walk out is you truly open the patio door, you walk out and.
So you're saying you can come through the house here, and over here there's a door or more steps to go out?
you walk in the front door, you go down into the basement. You
Okay.
go back into the backyard, so the back corner of the basement, there's a normal, 34-inch entry door. You can open it and then you walk up steps and you're in the backyard.
Wouldn't that be a walk-down basement too?
They're just looking at the glass half floor, Pete.
Yeah.
Going up and down. It's not too bad.
And there's some, and I thought this form, I know one of these forms had it, because I just had a listing, where entry from the garage.
Oh, yeah.
The basement had two entries, okay? And I know on one of the forms it had it in there, but I don't know why I'm not seeing it on this one. Total bedrooms, full baths, labs. Now you have to put in your bedrooms, and then when you come down to entering it in the system, you've got to make sure you've got, if you say 4 bedrooms, there's 4 bedrooms lined up in here. And then the bath's the same thing, with measurements. And I tried to beat the system one day because I was in a hurry and I was gonna come back and change something and just put 1 by 1 and then come back and change it. That didn't work. It wouldn't let me do that. But I could do 10 by 10 on all my, you know. Figuring it 1 by 1, I certainly knew that I had to go change something. But you do have to have all your measurements. The one thing you don't have, and it shows that you're supposed to have, you don't have to put floor covering on there. Okay? So if you want to, you can. And again, if you've got high-end flooring or whatever, then yeah, you certainly want to put it there, right? If something's 11.4 by 12.3, how are you putting that on this sheet?
That's 12.
If it's 11.7 by 12.4. 11.7 by 12.4. 12.12. I use, and I'm not saying this is written anywhere, if it's over 6, go up. If it's under 6, go down. All right? You're in a bedroom. Visualize this. You walk in the bedroom, here's the door, then the closet's next to it, right? Where do you measure the room from? The door or the front of the closet? Most people are going to measure from the front of the closet. That's probably where I would measure. Okay? Now you're in a kitchen. You've got countertop with cabinets. Walls back here. Wall.
Cabinets.
Most people are going to measure the wall. So, and I would measure the wall there too.
Would you?
Yeah. I would measure the wall.
I would think it'd be floor space. Okay.
You know, but again, because that's kind of a contradiction of what I'm going to say, but it's kind of usable space, right? You know, with the counter and everything else.
Yeah.
So,
Square footage.
you know, so to me, that's truly how big, and people expect cabinets and a counter, right?
Right.
You
So
hope.
if it was an island, you know, you put an island plump in the middle.
Right.
You're not gonna measure out.
And
from it
take out the
say,
island, right.
you
And
know.
then, good justification there, Lana, it's good thinking. But yeah, so from a kitchen, I would go wall to wall. From a bedroom, I would go closet to wall. That would be me. And that's try what I teach you guys, okay? Any questions on that?
No, but sometimes you go into houses and
They lie?
a lot of the time, yeah.
No, come on.
We're reporting them out.
If you have a bedroom without a closet, can that be considered a bedroom?
In the old days, it was supposed to be no. And I would say it's still probably no. But, I mean, who's to say that you couldn't throw up a closet, right? Or put an armoire in there? Yeah, and that wouldn't bother me as much as you can't count going through a room to another room and count the first one as a bedroom. And there's a lot of houses like that where people put, like in bungalows or small little ranches, let's say with 2 bedroom, you're shaking your head over there.
Yeah, they can't do that because it's not.
It's not, yeah. You gotta have, you know, privacy. They can't walk through a bedroom to get to another room. Okay? That's a no-no.
In the no closet thing, it seems like, you know, the room has to be accounted for, so it either has to be a library den, and in the comment, say possible third bedroom.
That's the best way to do it. That's correct. Unfortunately, what does that do for a lot of people? If you put 2 bedrooms down here, it may never get shown, right?
Right.
And that's, but when it is right, that is the right way to do it. If it's a big issue, you know what I tell somebody? Put a closet in. Because really, to put a closet in might cost them $300 or $400. You know, it shouldn't be that big a
You
deal.
would put down 3 bedrooms in?
If I put a closet in, yeah. If it didn't have a closet, I personally would not do that. I would say, just like you did, family. But if I'm not getting showings, I would tell the client right up front, you may not get showings because here you got a 2-bedroom, and you know, or a lot of people do is they take the wall out, right, between 2 bedrooms, because they don't need 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So we'll just put it in as a, you know, I can put the closet back, or you know, I can put the wall back. Well, you know what? Put the wall back now. You're going to sell your house. You might as well put the wall back, because you're going to get more money for your house, right, if it's a 3-bedroom, and you're gonna have more people looking at it. So sometimes people know what the problem is, and that obviously is part of your job, right? Your job is not to get out there and put the hammer and nails to it, but your job is to explain what the difference is. If you do this, this is what happens. If you do this, this is what happens.
So could you list it, what are your thoughts on listing as a 3-bedroom, and in your comments saying seller will add closet to 3rd bedroom at buyer's preference?
See,
or
if it was
buyer's
me, today we live in a society where people they want finished,
Okay.
okay? They want everything done. Now, personally, I'm the opposite of that. I would say if that's the case, do the damn thing now, and let's not worry about it. You know, because in reality, they know it needs to get done, just do it.
It's a good reason for a price reduction too, if you let the people know ahead of time, like you say, that this could be a potential, you know,
Yeah.
problem here.
Yeah, it's gonna be an
We have to
issue.
adjust the price.
You know, would you rather, and again, to put a closet in might cost, you know, like I say, $400 or $500. Someone buying it, they're not gonna say, oh, $400 or $500 I'm gonna take off the price, they're gonna hit you for $5,000 or more.
Right.
So,
So when you have a bungalow with 2 bedrooms down and an upstairs that could be used as a bedroom, how do you list that?
it's not finished yet,
It's finished.
it's finished and it's 3 bedrooms. Association fees. Usually if you see an association fee of, let's say, $300 a month, what are you gonna assume? The condo. If it's $100 a year, it's probably just in a subdivision that charges a
Land
maintenance.
manuals.
Yeah. So, but you gotta check how much, how often. Now this is Highland Lakes, right over here, if you guys that don't know it, where are we, right over there. Their association fees are over $400 a month now. And most people choke when they see that. But it includes gas and water. So that certainly makes it a lot more palatable, you know, and I still don't know if it's necessarily a good deal, but you can understand at $400 in the wintertime, you're gonna run up probably a $250 gas bill plus your water. So it's important that if it includes gas and water, you're putting that down. Association contact, none of this is necessary. You can enter without that, but does it make sense? Yes, I would put it in there, all 3 of those. Association contact, the phone number. I very rarely see the working capital in there. But if you at least have the association contact, then they can call and see how financially stable it is. When you guys are on the buy side, those are things you should be checking out for your client. You know, yeah, the condo clause, what the association dues are, have they gone up lately? How old are the roofs? Are they gonna get drilled for an assessment? Okay, because your association fees might be low, and their history is, we don't put roofs in the association fees, we charge a special assessment on it. Okay, so those are all things that you guys really need to look at. The list date, expiration date. How long are we gonna put, most of you guys? I use 90. I mean, I think that's fair because I think when you start asking for more, in the market we're in, don't we want people to price their house where it should be? If it takes you more than 90 days, then something's not right. Protection period, what's that?
180.
What's that?
180 days usually.
You put 180? What is a protection
I was
period?
thinking about that, that's a long time.
Yeah, but let's talk, what is a protection period first?
After expiration, the portion of the time that someone that you've shown or business you procured buys that window, you're still compensated.
You're entitled to the commission, correct. I use that to my favor. In other words, when I'm listing, I'll use exactly what Al says. I'll say, yeah, there's agents out there that are gonna charge, you know, they're gonna put 180 days on there. I'm only gonna put 30 days. You know, and I also tell people, I call that, but I do it on, because it's also in the the MLS, or not, the exclusive right to sell. right? The protection period's in there. I call it the dishonest seller line, and that's exactly what I tell people. I go, this is the dishonest seller line, and I know I'm never gonna have a problem with you, but I just have to go over it because other agents have had that problem. Okay, so I'm kind of doing a little reverse psychology on them. What that says, and I go and I'll tell them exactly what Lon just said. But you know what, at the end of the day, I don't have time to be checking to see if the person that I showed the house to bought the house, okay? So if you want to do that, go ahead. And when you put it in that way, they're not going to screw with you. And here's the other thing. How many times do you think you're going to show your listing? No.
Oh.
I do.
Not very
Just show it to them.
So you show a lot, your listings a lot. Juanita, you're the exception to the rule. Honestly, I very rarely show my listings.
Ideally just once, if you do.
Well, you're saying you're gonna sell it. But the moral of this, I mean, it's a numbers game, right? If there's 10,000 agents, who has a better chance to show it? Me or the other 10,000 agents that are out there? So if Al shows my house and the deal never comes together, how do I know that Al's client, when that was somebody that Al had as a client? I don't know. The only one in the protection period that I know, really would be someone I showed. Then I'd have to find out they actually bought it, right? You know, so agents get so worked up on stuff like that, but in reality, don't waste your brain cells on that. There's far more important things.
Can I ask real quick?
Yes.
If you go back, under association, the restrictions, how do you feel about, I know you can bump things up and whatnot, but some subdivisions do have restrictions, like no fences, and it's actually in the deed and stuff.
I would put that in there. If you know that there's, restrictions, if you put yes, they may call and ask. But something like the fence, it's pretty obvious, so it should be to you guys, that if you're showing houses and you look in the area and there's no fences, it should be, we need to find out if there's fences in there. So if you're putting a yes in there and somebody calls you and says, what's the restriction? No fences, or you can't paint your door purple, whatever. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with putting that in there. Sub-agency. Do we offer out sub-agency? No. And come back next week and we're going to talk about sub-agency. There's my teaser for next week. Buyer's agency. Do we offer out buyer's agency?
Yes.
Yes. And what is our office policy?
Not less than 3%.
Oh, I like that, not less than. Excellent answer there. That is correct. Most people just put 3%. Transaction coordinator. I don't want you guys offering out transaction coordinator either. So it's going to be a no there too. We're going to come back to compensation arrangements. We're going to end on that. I got to get a couple minutes here. Listing type. What's our listing type? Exclusive right to sell. That means no matter who shows the house, not even if the seller says I've got a buyer to the house, you're going to get paid, right? Mm-hmm. Exclusive agency. What is that? It's kind of a goofy term, actually.
You're the only agent that can sell a house, they can still do it for sale by owner.
Nope.
All right.
If you sell the house, you get compensated. If somebody else does, they get compensated.
If you procure the buyer, okay? And you're right, but I want to make it the next step with it. If you procure the buyer. That means on that one, if the seller brought somebody, you wouldn't necessarily get paid. Can they have more than one exclusive agency contract?
Yes.
Yes. You guys could all list my house. And whoever brings the buyer is going to get paid. Now, why would any of you want to do that, right? And I have seen that, but it's been a while where, yeah, if you bring me the buyer, I'll pay you. If you bring me the buyer, I'll pay you. Don't waste your time. You're going to list the house. You're listing the house as exclusive right to sell. You're the only one getting paid. Plain and simple. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying is that exclusive agency means that I'm not the only one that has the right to sell it?
That is correct.
Okay.
And whoever does sell the house
It's the only one.
is the only one getting paid.
Okay.
So I could sign a contract with each and every one of you, and how many are 2, 3, 6, 8, 10 of you here? One's gonna be happy, 9 of you aren't gonna be happy, right?
I'll be happy.
You
Would you
know?
use that?
Sorry.
Is it possible that that would be used for sale by owner?
I would use a one-party listing. I would strictly go to a one-party listing, and that's something we can talk about down the road, where you're going in with, if you've got a buyer, are you talking about if you've got a buyer to take there, or in general, Miss for sale by owner, how would if I bring you an offer, if I bring you somebody, you continue to market your home? In theory, you could, but I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, I'm either all in or all out, because then they could say, well, I found that for sale by owner, right? Or I found the buyer for my house. It muddies the waters. Just go for the kill. Terms offered. There's really 4 or 5 now that you're really gonna look at. And we're really gonna talk about that. Cash, conventional, FHA, FHA 203K, or land contract. Or VA, sorry. Now forget land contract, screw land contract out. VA is what I meant to say. VA is a veteran's loan that you have to be a veteran to get that. The FHA and the FHA 203K, pretty much anybody can get. The 203K is a rehab loan. Cash means you're walking up with cash, or you're walking up with a cashier's check. Or a wire, even better. That's right, man. Yeah. The old days of bringing cash to the table are gone. Because why? Well, there's a lot of different reasons there.
Counterfeit.
Counterfeit is one. Laundering. You can't, anything over $10,000 has to be sourced. Okay? I mean, there was a time in Dearborn where it was a cash and carry. I mean, there were a lot of homes that were getting sold in cash. People walking to the table, plopping it down. All right, go back to listing type. We talked about that. Then level of service. Full service, limited service, MLS entry only. What are we?
Full service.
We are a full service. Limited service is what?
You don't advertise.
You pick and choose what you're going to do, okay? And by picking and choosing, a lot of people will say, I'll just do this, and I'm only gonna charge you X. And then another one is MLS entry only, which is a flat fee. They're putting it in there, and you're dealing with the seller. You as the buyer's agent. There's a lot of people out there that are going to that, and I shouldn't say a lot, there's a few. And it's killing our industry. I mean, it really is.
The MLS only?
Yeah. That and even the other one, the limited service. When the market's good, more of those things pop up because people think they can sell that. When the market's good, there's more for sale by owners. But you know what's funny? I haven't seen a lot of for sale by owners lately. You guys seeing them out there? Which is kind of strange. Normally in this market, there'd be a lot of for sale by owners out there. We'll talk about that in another day. Services offered. You have to fill, if you're a full service, okay, you're going to check all 5 of those. If you're a limited service, you're going to check which ones you're doing. But if you notice, if it's limited service, at least one has to be checked. If you don't check that, any of those, what are you? MLS entry only, that's correct. So ours are always going to be filled out. We need it. There you go. Public remarks. There it is, your best job to describe the house, and I would not put 3-bedroom brick ranch, because all of that stuff is already above you, right? This is your time to make the house sound great. Now, what you don't want to do is lie or fabricate. And there's a lot of agents that do that. And then when they get there, the people are upset. You're better off being honest in your remarks. You may get less people showing the house, but the ones that are there are gonna be serious about buying it. Because you guys have all shown homes, and you look at it, you know, you read the description, and you get there and you're thinking, what the hell, were they describing the house next door? You know, they're not describing this one. And this is what it could end up like. Dropping a lot of money. You could have that house too. All right, now I want to talk about, in the public remarks, can you put your name and phone number in the remarks section?
Not supposed to.
You cannot. And if somebody catches you, it will get called, you'll have a real count call.
Yeah, I see people do it all the time.
Well, rat fink on them. And I mean, I don't mean that as a bad guy, but if we don't police ourselves, nobody's gonna, okay? So your agent remarks could be, the only difference might be you put in there's a bonus. I use, my public remarks and my agent remarks are the same thing. My brain cell can't handle writing two different remarks. So it's just all the same. All right, let's talk about compensation arrangements. What's a bonus? That's where I'm gonna pay Al. If Al sells the house by the end of the month, I'm gonna give Al a bonus of $1,000 if he closes, okay? Does the client need to know there's a bonus out there?
Yes.
You all say yes?
Yes, I do.
Why?
The buyer you talking
Yes.
about?
Yes, me?
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Profound person,
I will want my client aware, so they don't feel that they were steered to that property, or like, yeah, this is.
You are absolutely right.
I'm gonna know it's extra in it for me if you choose
Right.
it.
You're absolutely right. Don't leave anything out on the table, okay? Because there's two houses that are exactly alike, and they like them both. And you say, hey, I really think you should buy this house on Main Street. Then I'm getting a $5,000 bonus on it if you buy that house. And then they move into the house, and let's just say it's a dump. And they come back and say, God, I hate this, or they find out that you had that. You think in their mind they're going to have a good opinion of what just happened, even though it wasn't your fault necessarily, but it automatically is going to become your fault. So you're better off just addressing it right up front and not having the problem.
Wouldn't they catch it on the HUD anyway?
Most people wouldn't, I hate to say that. I mean, they're only looking at what it costs them, right? And it's not going to show on what it costs them, it's on the other side. What's an exclusion?
The buyer. Go ahead.
Or something that's in the home that's not being sold.
No, this is strictly compensation on this one. Manita, you know it?
The buyer has somebody that.
The seller.
The seller has somebody that they think might buy it.
Correct.
You exclude them.
We exclude that person. Now, somebody just asked me this the other day. If the seller says, I've got somebody who might want to buy my house, can we exclude them? Yes, Lon, I will exclude them for a 2-week time period. After that, if they want to buy the house, they're paying what's, market value, and the commission, you're paying a commission on them. They should know in 2 weeks, right? If they want to buy the house. It's not fair to you guys to sit there and market the house, then only to find out you're not getting paid on it. Or let's say there's that scenario. I exclude a person, and we're sailing along, and we're 2 weeks into it, and I have an agent that brings, it's a $200,000 house. I have an agent that brings me a full price offer. And all of a sudden, the excluded person comes in. They only need to offer $188, right? If there's no commission, assuming there's a 6% commission there. So you got to tie it up to where, in this agent in our office, I was going round and round in circles with him because he did not want to listen to me, and every one of my conversations goes the same way. It's like he asks a question and then don't want to listen to what I'm saying. You guys would never do that.
No,
Of course not. So it comes down to, if your client doesn't want to do that, then you got to figure it out. Tell them, listen, it's not fair to me to sit here and market your home and then not get paid because you've got somebody 3 months later that comes in and says, I excluded them. And does that make sense? Can you guys all have that conversation with your clients? Anyone know what a variable is?
It can fluctuate, so say that something like, if the home sells for under 200,000.
And you got to be careful on that one. It could, but it's a little different. This used to be big in Ann Arbor and downriver. I'll pay you 6% or 3% commission on the first 100,000, but 2% on anything over that. In other words, it's a $400,000 house, and I'm paying you 3% on this 100,000 and 2% on the 300,000. So there's a variable commission there, structure. But what you're saying, Lon, could happen, but what ends up happening there is you're almost getting to what's called almost a net commission. Okay, if I sell it for this, you get paid this. Okay, can you charge somebody a commission that way? Anything over $200,000 you can keep.
Yes.
No, you can't do that. And that's called a problem. It's just so we'll go with the problem. Yeah, I think it is a net commission, but I have to double check that. All right, I forgot one thing here on purpose.
Remember?
And I don't want you to say that. Al, do you remember? Dual?
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Lon, you probably went through this too, and Alex might have been through this also. I don't know if Dave went through this. What is a dual commission? God, you should be up here filming because these faces are priceless.
Will you get all the commission yourself?
Nope.
Split commission?
If I'm going to offer out to all you guys, I take a 6% commission, I'm offering out 3% to you guys. However, I sell the house myself, I'm only going to charge 5% commission. Okay? Can I do that? Do I have to disclose that?
Yes.
You should.
Yeah.
Do I have to disclose that to all the other agents out there?
No. Just to the client.
I say yes.
You have two options here. Let's go with no. I know a few people said no. Let's go with yes. Al, you're kind of, Al's kind of, that's where we're trying to go.
I'm forgetting that.
Bottom line is, you have to disclose it. Why?
Because you have an advantage.
Everybody needs to be on a level playing field. Because if I don't disclose it, let's say I'm doing 4, and it's a $200,000 house. Okay? Lon brings me a full price offer of 200 grand. And we're not going to take all the costs out, we'll just take the commission. That's a net of what? 188, right? I take, and I bring an offer of 198. What's the net then? At 198 is basically,
189.
or it's actually with 8 grand, it's not even, probably 190 still. So, what's the better deal for the seller?
198. Sure. Reduce commission.
That might reduce commission. Is that fair to you guys that you don't know that? Because you're going to sit here and say, and I just had an agent in the office just asked me the other day, he had it's a little different, he had a highest and best. His offer was way up here, it closed out, it was $10,000 to $12,000 less. Okay, but forget the highest and best. But your client, or you might look at that and say, son of a gun, my offer was better than that, because it's going to go in the MLS, right? So I have to tell you, on a dual, I have to check dual. Now, it doesn't tell me what the deal is, right? It's all just saying there's a dual. So you have to, what do you have to do? As the agents out there.
Say the truth if someone asks you.
Well, I'm the listing agent. What are you going to do, Alex, if you saw that?
Ask you.
You're going to ask me, and then I have to tell you.
Right.
Okay? Now, is it an issue 99% of the time?
No,
When does it become an issue?
there's 2 offers.
And, a little bit more there, Juanita,
I have the offer and.
The
somebody-
listing agent has one offer, and you guys have the other. If two of you have the offer, it's irrelevant, right? It's only if the listing agent has the offer and somebody else. So in reality, if you happen to write an offer, and you call me up, and what's the first question you may ask me? You should ask me.
Is it yours?
No.
I wouldn't
First
have-
question is, do you have any other offers? And they say, yeah, I got a couple other ones. Then what's the next question?
Is it
Are any of them yours?
Are any of them yours?
Dual.
And then the next question is, are you, and then I can guarantee you 99% of the agents out there don't understand this.
Yeah, they probably.
And if you said, did you do a reduced commission if it's one of your offers? And they may say, it's none of your business. Well, yes, it is. It's clearly my business, and that's what that means.
Well, you say, yes, there is a dual in the market that's on the listing, but for me to have to tell them what my deal is with my people, I don't buy that.
Yep, but it is. That's the MLS. You have
I
to
mean,
disclose it.
yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
mark dual.
Yeah.
But whether I'm getting 2% or 5% or whatever, I don't think it's any of their business.
But it is. It has to be. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And that is what our MLS
They
says.
just have to do highest and best.
No, it has nothing to do with highest and best, because you're still at an unfair advantage. The listing agent would always be at an unfair advantage, and you can't possibly, you could be in a situation, think about what you're saying too, Anita. If it's a highest and best, and you have a listing, and let's say, and I hate to say this, okay? If you have a listing and you have a buyer, I'm pretty confident you should never lose the highest and best, right? Why? You know all the other offers.
Right.
Right? I mean, it doesn't make sense, and that's why it's pretty tough on a highest and best. If the listing agent has an offer in there, it's pretty tough to get it. Now, but this, you do have to, if somebody asks you, you have to tell them what your thing is. Now, 99% of the people are never going to ask you because they don't know. They don't even know that it exists. If you started asking all the other agents out there, and you ask them, what's dual mean on there? They'd say, I don't know. So, okay, that's where we're ending today. Next week is agency. Everybody needs to be here for that.